Bee Cave. And Lori is the marketing director at the Auberge at Bee Cave, an assisted living memory care community. And she's lived in the Austin area for most of her life. And she has a background in pharmaceutical sales, home and health, and hospice sales. Was he being naughty with you and just ran off?
He bit me.
He bit you? Oh no, do we need to call the doctor?
No, it's all good. It's
okay.
All good.
He's spunky.
He's very spunky. He weighs about 30 pounds.
Oh my gosh. He needs to go on a diet. Everybody's feeding him their food or what?
Yes, he's a community cat. So.
He's a community cat. He gets spoiled. He knows which rooms to go to get the good food.
And he's in my office right now, so he knows where the granola bars are.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I was just introducing you, Lori, as you walked away. Lori is very passionate about helping families in need and always goes the extra mile to help ensure a smooth transition into memory care. When she isn't working, she enjoys spending time with her family, going to movies, cooking, and listening to music. So welcome, Lori, and she is with the Auberge.
Thank you.
We have Landria. Hey, Landria. She's with Belmont Village in Lakeway, and she received her master's in health administration and graduate certificate as a licensed nursing facility administrator from Texas State University in 2014, and her bachelor's in biomedical science from Grand Valley State University in 2011. Landria is a dedicated and enthusiastic professional with over 14 years experience in geriatric communities, and Landria joined Belmont Village Lakeway as a community relations associate in November of 2017. But you were with Belmont Village before, weren't you? Or no, you've been in the senior industry for a long time. Yeah. How many years total in the senior living industry?
A long time.
A long time. It's just that I always say this because you always look so young, and I'm thinking,
I know.
It's just, man, you got some good genes there, girl. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat. Natalie, are there any other panelists who want to come on to the call at this point that you can see?
I'm corresponding with Christi right now. She's having trouble.
Yeah. So imagine having trouble logging into Zoom. Everybody does. I don't care if you do Zoom calls every day, 5 times a day, there's still issues with it. So I think we'll go ahead and get started with the people that we have on. Again, I'm Cyndi Cummings. I'm one of the founders of LT Senior Services. I also happen to be a real estate agent, and I help people when they're making moves from their family home into communities such as what Landria and Lori work for. So I've worked with these gals in these communities for years, and there's always questions about 55 plus living communities and what they do and how they're different and what the costs are, and it's crazy. So we're so happy to have you on today to be able to answer some of the questions for people that they might have. I do have a chat from somebody and they are here, so I'm going to go ahead and let them in real quick. And hold on one second. Debbie, I'm going to have you come on in. So come in with video and with voice. So Debbie is a substitute today for John Brown from Oasis Senior. Hey, Debbie, thanks for being here. You are muted. I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Okay, perfect. I had a terrible time getting on. I'm sorry. How are you guys?
It's okay. It's okay. You are not the only one. It's actually nice to see people have trouble because then we feel like, okay, other people have trouble too. So, Debbie, you are representing Oasis Senior Living or Senior, what is the name exactly?
Oasis Senior Advisors.
So I don't have your bio to read. So could you just tell us a little bit about Oasis and how they help people when they're trying to determine the 55 plus senior puzzle?
So we help people navigate the changes that they have to make, either in their living situation, their care situation, that kind of thing. So Oasis is personal, it's local, which is nice because we know the communities and we know the pricing and we know the locations and we know the care levels, as well as getting to know the families and the clients really well, so that we're helpful on both sides of that, so that we can bring people together that should be brought together rather than, and we keep the client's contact information private. So we don't just spread their information to 30 communities and have them get 30 calls, 30 emails, that kind of thing. So that's part of the nice part. And we're free, so that we're free for them to use. So we just help navigate and and have them get linked to the right place, you know, and to be able to make one call and have somebody, some people can't move right away, especially right now with COVID-19. So we may link them to home health or home care for 3 months. We might find them a respite, like maybe they can't move where they want to go, but they need somewhere. So we're able to know what's going on out in our communities, and then also get to know them really well, so we make a good match.
So to me, the way I guess I would describe your services is you're a broker in a sense. So you help people broker and find their next living community, and you have the ability to help them with all different types of living situations.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, we think also it's almost more, it is brokering, but it's more connecting. It's more making sure that they get connected with what they need.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks for being on the call. We're sorry to hear John has some a health issue, and so he wasn't able to make it. So we're really appreciative that you could hop on with such short notice. So without further ado, what our process will be for our webinar today is, oh, I'm echoing. I'm not sure why. Am I echoing on you guys too? Yeah.
Bad.
I'm not sure why I'm doing that. So the process for today will be, we have some set questions. So just questions I'm going to ask everybody, and then you can just answer them yourselves. And if it's not appropriate for your community, because each of the communities has their own kind of flavor and their feel and amenities and things that they offer for people. But if the question isn't appropriate for the panelists, then just pass on it. So that's how we'll work that. So we have some questions first that we're going to go ahead and ask. So our first question is,
Hey, Cyndi, real quick, can you check to see if Christi's on? I think she might be.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to add Christi to it, if I can see her. Christi, I don't see a Christi in there.
It might be under Teresa Wolf.
Might be under Teresa Wolf. I don't see Teresa. It's not on here either. Christi, would you go ahead and raise your hand? And the way that you would raise your hand is scroll down to the bottom, and then you'll see, I believe it's under more. And you can raise your hand, and then I can see under which name you might be listed. Oh, I got it. Okay. So we're letting Christi log on now. Christi, if you'll come in with video and with sound, that would be great. And do you see being logged in, Christi? Okay. Christi, I'm going to let you just kind of work on getting in. Does anybody see her coming in? I don't. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our questions. So I guess the first question that I would have is, let's kind of play a game, okay? So our game is, we've got John and Mary, and they are driving around in their car. They're about 60, 65, and they're trying to figure out their future, right? So they're trying to determine if their needs were to increase as far as for care, where are some places that they might choose to live. So they're driving around town on their own, right? So the first place that they go to is a 55 active adult apartment complex. And so we know apartment complexes have some features that they offer for people when they move into them. And Debbie, this would probably be a great question for you, because the other two offer a higher level of care. So if you were coming into a 55 plus apartment complex, what are some things that you would assume would be provided for you with your monthly fee that you would pay to them? So what do they offer? 55 active community.
Well, just 55 and over active community may only include some utilities in their billing, some general activities. Once in a while, some of them offer some transportation. But a 55 plus active community like an apartment complex does not always offer as much as I think people think it will. So they're very different, because they're independent and so they're very different. So some might offer more than others, but they don't offer meals as an example.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody's in their 60s, they probably don't want meals offered. They probably want the activities. They probably want, they may not even want the transportation. So it just depends, but they all offer something different. So they should really ask those questions when they go in for sure about the different things, because I find them to be very different one from another.
So one of the things with 55 plus communities that we're going to ask everybody is, can you have pets? So can you have a pet at those apartment complexes?
Most of them, yes, absolutely, because they are very independent. So they might have some weight limits like some other apartment complexes, but yes, 90% or more of them do allow pets.
And it seems like their activities are going to be based on the needs of the people who live there. It seems like the people who live there dictate the activities. They oftentimes don't have a social director. Is that right?
And some do and some don't. That's again one of those differences that you find. Some have an activities person and they have a very active, you know, and they go places and they do things and have card games. Others are more resident driven. So others have kind of the infrastructure for it, but the residents actually make things happen. So they can be very different.
Okay, so they've kind of checked that out. Oftentimes those senior living communities, almost all of them, the active ones, have a pool. They're going to have areas where they can have recreation. They're going to have social areas. They're going to have TV rooms. Some of them have workshops. Some have areas where you can have your sewing machine and all your knitting. So it's really, really fun. So that is a 55 plus apartment complex. So now they say, okay, now we figured out the apartment complex. Let's go to independent living. They pull up to an independent living community, they pop in, and Landria, what are some of the things that they're going to see different from an apartment complex to an independent living?
Yeah, so kind of as Debbie hinted at, each community has a personality. So regardless of where they go, definitely encouraging them to visit because you want to see if they're going to be a great fit for that community. So coming into ours, you would see a lot of our residents. You have a lot of ancillary support services here. So you would have a concierge greeting you at the door that can schedule transportation for that residents who may not drive anymore or don't want to drive. So they can have transportation, doctor's appointments. Like Debbie had said, you would see kind of the activity support services that are offered at some of the apartment complexes. We have a lot more comprehensive approach to the activities. We want to make sure that our residents are maintaining their overall brain health. So we do a lot of brain games, physical exercises. And again, kind of how like Debbie had said, we offer activities, but they kind of morph to the residents that are living there. So they change over time. It's not just a set, this is the activities you have all the time. But here you do see kind of a wide variety of residents because we do offer the independent living, assisted living, and memory care programs.
So how about your common meals? How do you have your meals in independent living?
So we have a main dining room, which is Josephine's Kitchen, which offers 27 entrees offered. They're all made to order. We don't do line cooking. And then we also have a bistro to offset. It's a fully functioning bistro that offers sandwiches, salads. So the residents, if they go to a doctor's appointment during a scheduled meal time, they have the opportunity to still eat and they can order custom-made food from our bistro. But the independent living residents are given 2 meals a day and they can have complimentary breakfast in our bistro.
So it's restaurant style dining, isn't it? So it's not buffet, you don't walk through. So you sit and you have a menu and you choose off the menu for your meals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. How about pets? Are you pet friendly?
Yes, you're very pet friendly.
I'm smiling because they totally are. So having pets is really important to people. So that's probably one of the things, don't you think, Debbie, when people are looking at different living environments, if they've got an animal and they don't accept pets, then it's over.
Yes, and we even find it can be very hard, even as people have to move on to assisted living or memory care, it can be very difficult. The pet situation can be a weighing factor even as they move on in their care needs. And of course, the memory care has a lot to contend with taking care of residents, so they often don't. But it is a big deal. Pets are a big deal, for sure.
So Landria, for independent living, there's going to be transportation for doctor's appointments and shopping and for basic things like that. And then your activities are going to be included in your monthly fee, right?
Yeah.
You'll have some extra activities. So let's say if you go to, well, we don't do it anymore, but let's say we were going to a play or we were going wine tasting or something like that, then you would pay for that. Is that right? But you have other activities that are part
Yeah,
of
so we would still do the transportation, that's all included, but if they have gone out to like Fredericksburg, when they buy wine at the wineries, that's at their cost.
That's at their cost. Okay, great. So how about housekeeping in independent living? Do you offer that?
Yep, so any of the continuums, we offer housekeeping. We do a deep clean of the apartment once a week. They can always add on if more are needed. And then we also, in terms of their bed linens and towels, we wash those for our independent living residents. And then any of other residents that live here, say for like our assisted living or memory care, we do their personal laundry as well.
Oh, you do? Okay. So, and again, independent living is private pay. So you're not going to get any kind of help from Medicaid or Medicare or any of those kind of entities, right? It's all out of the pocket.
Correct. It's all private pay, or if they have like long-term care insurance or the veteran aid and attendance benefit.
Okay, great. Okay, so hey, it says Landria Page, but I know it's Christi. Hey, Christi.
Hi, I couldn't log in, so Landria hooked me up. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad you logged on, Christi. We're already just what we're doing is doing a tour. We already started at an independent living apartment. Now we've gone to independent living. We have a couple, they're kind of touring, trying to figure out the different kinds of senior living. So now we're at assisted living. So this might be an appropriate time for you to tell us about your senior living community, because your level of care is at assisted living. Is that right? Yes.
Assisted living, yes.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your community.
Well, our community, we're assisted living, aging in place. Like most assisted livings, we provide 3 meals a day, help with daily ADLs. I helped open this building, about 4 years ago. So I just joined the team again. I'm so excited to be here. We've been through several different management companies and owners, and I think we finally put the right team together. So we're just building an A-team community right now. So we are super excited. We do have a pool, so we're going to be offering, let's say, aqua therapy. So we're excited about that. As soon as COVID eventually goes away, we'll be able to open back up. And I think that's been the hardest thing, is our residents they just feel kind of stuck right now. So we're working hard to make sure that our residents are taken care of.
Remind us the name of your community.
Oh, hello. It's changed names several times. So the name we're sticking with right now is Arbor, Terrace of Lakeway. And our management company is Arbor, the Arbor.
Arbor. Okay, great.
They're great.
So you are right behind the hospital.
We are.
Right. Yep, you're real close to the hospital there. So when we talk about ADLs, tell us a little bit about what ADLs are. I think once you need ADLs, that's the time in which most people think, I need to move to assisted living. So what's an ADL?
So assistance with bathing, dressing, grooming, medication management, any type of standby assistance, whether it be just moderate, mid, max assist, basically anything that you're needing help with in areas that you're lacking in. Those are areas that we can help you improve in and help navigate.
Great. So people are...
Oh, sorry, Cyndi, I wondered if she could talk a little bit about how assisted living pricing is done.
We're going to do pricing we'll do pricing in a little bit. Yeah, okay. We're just going to go through all this and then we'll go back to the pricing part. Okay. So when we talk about assisted livings, let's talk about the meals. So with the meals, is it going to be restaurant style or will it be buffet?
It's restaurant style. So pretty much to piggyback off what Landria said, it's restaurant style. If they're needing something, we also have an anytime menu. So if they don't really like what's served, they can order off of the anytime menu. and it's pretty much served throughout the day. And we also have a bistro. It's a little bit different now because everything's individually wrapped, but they can still come down and get the things that they need if they want a snack.
And I think your pool's indoor, and I think Landria's is outdoor. Is that right?
It is.
Yep. So these are just some
Landria's pool is very lavish. I want to go lay out in her pool. Our pool's more of a therapy pool. So it's indoor. It's not very deep. Still pretty cute. We're excited about getting to use it. But yeah, very different from Landria's pool.
So when we talk about pets at assisted living, so how are you with pets coming in?
Oh, yeah, I have to show you. So I have to show you. So we are, let's see, really big on pets. So that's Hank the Tank.
Hank the Tank.
Oh,
buddy.
So this, we adopted this pet. This is our Arbor pet, Hank the Tank. Especially right now, everybody's just feeling a little lonely, especially our residents, even our staff, just because of everything that's going on. So we adopted Hank the Tank, and he's a retired service dog. And so he's been great. So we are very pet friendly. Doesn't matter what type of animal it is, birds, lizards, we welcome them all.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you have assisted living and you also have memory care. Is that right?
We do.
Okay. So I'm going to just kind of switch. You've got memory care. Landria has memory care, and so does Lori. So I'm going to go up to Lori. And Lori, now we've had John and Mary. They're driving around. They went to assisted living. They've kind of got that figured out, and now they happen upon your community, which is memory care. So tell us about how memory care would be different from assisted living that we've heard about.
So memory care is all memory care, okay? Anywhere from dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, traumatic brain injuries. Our residents can come in early stages and age in place, mid to late, including end of life care as well. So we don't have specific areas for memory care or assisted living. We're a very open environment and provide that level of care through all different stages.
Well, we know you're pet friendly.
We're very pet friendly, yeah.
Yes.
A little while ago, and
yes. How many pets do you have there? And are they all community pets, or are some of them residents' pets?
Some of them are residents' pets. We have 5 cats, and we have 1 dog, and we have a big tank full of fish, and we have birds.
You have birds. All right. So one of the things that I always think about the difference between assisted living and memory care is that the door is locked. To me, that's a good description. So what that means is people might be escaping or going out of the community and being in danger. So would you guys agree that that's a time in which if people are getting out of the building and not knowing where they are, that might be a time that they need to consider memory care?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What would be another time that you would move from assisted living to memory care per se? What would be another incident, or what might be happening that you would do that?
I think when people become unsafe in their environment, where they need that higher level of care, they need more of a medical oversight, or maybe they're having behaviors or hallucinations or anything related to cognitive impairment. They need that next level of care to be given that medical model in a social environment, but in a very secured environment as well. With our residents, we can actually offer psychiatric care for them. We work with a company called Med Options. We can do behavioral mapping. What is agitating the resident? What do we need to do to make them feel more comfortable? It could be med management. We need to look at their medications to make sure that they're taking the right medications, or the medications that they're taking are metabolized within the body, that they're actually really working to help control some of these behaviors.
What are some of the activities that you would do? Maybe tell us about things that might be different from another assisted living or independent living. What kind of activities do you do?
So our activity program is called Spark. It's based on the Montessori methods, and it includes engagement, it includes social interactions and inclusion within the community. And what I mean by that is that we call ourselves a community. So when we bring in residents here, we want them to feel a part of something. We want to give them a purpose. We want to engage them. It's very, very important, because when you look at a resident with dementia or Alzheimer's, they tend to be depressed, they tend to isolate, they sundown, they're confused. So our goal is to bring them in and socialize them and give them roles within the community. So for example, if mom used to garden, she doesn't garden anymore, we're going to focus on what she used to be able to do and what she still can do. So we're going to bring her into our community, and we're going to put her in charge of the gardening club. We're going to give her a purpose to get up in the morning, to be happy and to be engaged. And that's really what our program is about. Instead of having these set engagement programs, we ask our residents, what would you like to do today? What would you like to paint? What kind of pizza would you like to make? And then we build the program on top of that. So for example, if we have a resident that says, ooh, let's make cheese pizza. All right, you're going to be in charge of the pizza committee. Now we need to go grocery shopping and get all the ingredients. So who's going to be in charge of that? So we can take one activity and actually spread it out over the course of 2 weeks. And what we find is that it can create new memories, and it also shows patterns, and it just makes the residents feel like they're a part of something bigger.
That's great. Well, Landria, you have a memory program too. And what's the name of your program?
Circle of Friends.
Circle of Friends. So tell us about Circle of Friends and what happens with that.
So Circle of Friends is I would call it kind of like a hybrid model. It's different. It's not as so much as black and white. If you have a cognitive impairment, you need to live in a secure memory care. We have it kind of explaining it would be like an unsecure memory care, where you're getting the support but allowing your loved one to remain in assisted living. So our program, it's a therapeutic social program. It's evidence-based, and what we do is our goal is to work around 6 domains each day. So a lot of times when we look at, say, like an independent living or assisted living activities calendar, there's times associated with every activity. With our theory is that with a cognitive impairment, every day is different for them. So our goal is to just work through the domains so that we're exercising the different lobes of the brain. And what that does, it just gives them the mental workout, but it really enhances improving their short and long-term memories and judgment, their sequencing skills, problem solving, and then just processing of different activities and verbal skills.
And you're seeing people maintain the level that they came in at, and then are you also seeing some improvement sometimes with memory with people in the program?
Yeah, so even in our short period of time being open, so it's been a little over 19 months, we had a lady move in, and she moved into our secure memory care because that was just the recommendation. And when I say recommendation, we do a cognitive assessment called a MOCA, which is a Montreal Cognitive Assessment for any resident that moves into our community. And what that does is it gives us a cognitive score so that we make sure that that resident, when they're moving in, they're paired with other residents that are at the same cognitive level. Because if you have somebody who's at early stages and somebody who's at more of the advanced stages of dementia, if they are in a group setting together, one could be more of a distraction because they need more prompting. So we believe in just giving them the right challenge. So we want to make sure they're paired with people. So we have multiple classrooms. We have 3 different classrooms at our community. And that's kind of how we judge and make sure that they're paired well together.
Christi, you have memory care too, don't you?
We do.
Yes. And so what's interesting here is we've got 3 communities. They're all very different. They have different levels of care, but yet each of them has memory care. So how is your memory care different maybe from the other 2 memory cares?
I would say, I mean, I don't know that we're that much different. I think memory care, we just want to focus on what the needs are and really individualize the care. Everybody's at different stages. Some people have frontal lobe, some people have Lewy bodies. And so we really want to focus on what the care is for each individual and find out what the need is and how to best figure out what we can do to increase their quality of life as far as finding a purpose. Just like Lori said, you want to be able to navigate towards that direction so that they feel that there is a purpose, because just because they have memory issues doesn't mean that they can't be, oh gosh, how do I say this? They can't be motivated, and those memories can't come back over time. That's one thing that I've noticed. If you figure out exactly what, one, their triggers are, then you can kind of accommodate their needs. And then if you figure out what kind of motivates them, that it just improves their quality of life.
Excellent. Well, one thing that I've noticed in helping seniors when they're looking at moving from their home into a senior living community, if I'm working with a couple, let's say, for example, the couples are very different. Oftentimes you have one couple who's okay physically and you know, vice versa. So one normally has physical limitations, one normally has mental limitations. So how would your community help a couple that would be moving into a community such as yours? How do you help those people who are at varying levels? Christi, you want to go first?
Sure. So each individual is given an assessment, and it's oftentimes during the move-in process, they're like, well, my mom needs help with bathing. Well, my dad needs help with medication management. And so how we help come up with the process is based on time spent. So we do the evaluation, and depending, it's based on a point system. So depending on where their point system is, that's how we come up with the level of cares. Now, as far as assisting, are you talking about if one needs memory care and one needs assisted living? Mm-hmm. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Mm-hmm. How can that couple cohabitate or be together? Can they live together in your community, for example?
They absolutely can. So we have some couples that they choose, the wife, for example, chooses, I mean, they obviously need memory care because they're exit seeking and they just need that additional care. And the husband decided that he wanted to go over and live there as well in our memory care. So they're still able to come over to the assisted living side. She just has to make sure that she's monitored by her husband, and they're able to eat meals together if they want to come over, you know, to the assisted living side, and vice versa. If it's a couple that wants to live separately and one half is living in memory care and the other half is living in AL, they can still come to either side, as long as that particular resident in memory care, there's an eye placed on them just in case they're exit seeking, because we have several residents that come over to the assisted living side and they're able to do a lot of the activities that our assisted living residents are able to do. So I would say it's definitely an accommodation that we're able to provide.
Excellent. Lori, how about you? Are you able to accommodate that if you have a couple?
It really depends on the couple. If one is early stage and one is mid to late stage, yes, we can. But again, we would have to do an assessment. If we find that one is very independent and one has memory care issues, we partner with other facilities in the area. I would not recommend someone who's very independent to move into our community, because at that time they're typically driving, even assisted living, being appropriate for assisted living. It's just not a good match because we are all memory care here. Mm-hmm. And what we find that if we do move someone in who's more independent than their spouse, and they've been the primary caregiver, then they continue to take care of their spouse while they're living within our community. And that becomes very difficult because the spouse again is the primary caregiver, and they tend to not take care of themselves. So we do not recommend that.
Mm-hmm. But you, Landria?
Yeah, so we serve a lot of couples, and what we did when we opened our community here in Lakeway is we kind of looked at the demographics that we were serving, and a lot of the residents are couples that are in that situation where one has been the caregiver and is still very independent, and again, like Laura is saying, we really strive at supporting that independence. We want them to do what they can for as long as possible. So like with a couple, if one is independent, they have the opportunity to live in our independent living apartments, and their loved one who has a cognitive impairment can go to the circle of friends, which, as I mentioned earlier, it's just a classroom. So they go 7 days a week, get the cognitive support, but can still have meals with their loved one, and we can continually meet those care needs. And the way we can meet those care needs in the independent continuum is the entire building is licensed as assisted living, even if it's just classified as independent. It's kind of like an independent price point, but they can truly age in place in that apartment all the way through hospice care.
It's a pretty unusual situation, isn't it, Landria? Because normally the independent living are not licensed at that higher level. So,
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we went through memory care. Again, we're private pay at memory care, right?
Yes.
Yep. There's no Medicare, no Medicaid, none of that kind of stuff. Okay. So now John and Mary are driving by and they see nursing. They see a nursing, we're going to call it a nursing home and a rehab. And we don't have anybody from nursing home or rehab on here, but Debbie, do you want to take that one? Can you tell us the difference between, now we've gone to memory care. So what's nursing and rehab?
I actually did work with a couple that that's what they had done. They drove around, and every time they saw a nursing home, they were going in and trying to move in, and they didn't need it. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
You know, they see the signs, they see the building, they don't know.
Yeah,
So,
no.
But nursing care, skilled nursing facilities, their whole, they are more of a medical model rather than a social model. So they're there to meet more medical needs. So if somebody needs long-term care, but they have a trach or a feeding tube or some things that the assisted living level is not allowed to do in most cases unless they have an extended license, that may be the place that somebody needs to be. Sometimes it's more for short stays, and sometimes people actually have to live out their lives there. The difference is because it's a medical model, they do qualify for some payments from Medicare and Medicaid and insurance companies depending on what their diagnosis is and why they're in there. And so that's where some people who have to go on Medicaid end up having to go to a skilled nursing facility, not maybe because they absolutely have to have that medical level, but because they qualify both financially and by the medical criteria, and then they can get Medicaid and they can afford somewhere. So it's a much more medical model, though it's not really designed for socialization. It's not designed for, there's plenty of good ones with good activities. I'm saying it's not designed. It's designed for being like in the next step from a hospital rather than a living situation, despite the fact that some people need to live there.
Right. So I typically will see that there's two parts to a building like that. So you've got your rehab side. So let's say you broke a hip, you got to go in, you're rehabbing. So those people are there. Then you've got your long-term side. And those are going to be people who, medically need a lot of assistance. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah. Where they may be bedbound, bedridden. There are some that are locked now too. Is that right? There are a couple.
There are some secured units in some of the long-term care facilities, and so that helps, especially for those people who have to be on Medicaid and need memory care.
Mm-hmm. So those are what traditionally that's where most people would go to as they age. I worked for a placement company like yours, Debbie, and I'd have people call and say, my mom needs to go into a nursing home. And I'd say, wait, what's going on with her? And she's like, well, she can't drive anymore. I'm like, you go to a nursing home. We can work this out. So you probably have a whole list of questions, Debbie, that you have when you first talk to a family to try to determine finances, location, and then their physical issues that make it be that they're looking.
I do, and it's interesting because you're right. People just jump because people don't know how many amazing places are in between home and nursing home. And I'm always like, wait, there's all these different options. The one thing that I like about when we talk to a family is sometimes, like, especially y'all who are in memory care will get this, people go, well, the doctor said they were a level 4 or a level this. And I'm like, I don't want to know that number. What I want to know is, what are they doing? What are you worried about? What do you want for them? So we ask a lot of those questions. A lot of what you all ask in your buildings, we ask on the front side. You know, it's like, well, what do you want for them, and what do they need and want now, and what are they doing each day, and what are you worried about? Because honestly, if they are wandering, that's a whole different thing than worrying about the fact that they're gonna, you know, burn down the house with a stove. And so the number that the doctor gave them, it's not really as applicable to their living situation and their care needs as I think the medical community kind of leads them to believe. So we ask questions like that. Of course, we cover their finances, their location. You know, most people aren't going to go 30 miles across town from where they live and work to visit mom or dad. So we try to take all of those into consideration, but we do ask, what are the things that are most important to them, so that we know the communities that are offering those. And sometimes memory care, you know, a lot of people are a little bit hesitant about memory care. I think we all know that, right? It's like, well, can't they be in assisted living? Can't they be an independent? Can I keep them? And it's like, I think we look at that as being a bad thing, but we really talk to them about their care needs and about their socialization needs and the kind of help, because sometimes just needing that that extra support is very important to know. You know, yes, you can bring services into an independent living, you can bring services into your home, but that may not really be meeting the total needs of that person. And so we ask a lot of questions about their everyday needs, emotional needs, their mental health needs, because that's a big thing when people are at home. We forget that they might be watching TV all day, but it might just be because nobody really knows how to work with them. One person caregiving is different than a whole team. Usually the team has a favorite person right? So that person can get them to do something that nobody else can. There's a tension all day. Somebody's coming by and saying, oh my God, your eyes look so pretty with that sweater. That's a big difference over sitting home alone or having a caregiver come in a few times a day. So we talk about all of their needs. We look at it from a very holistic viewpoint when we're asking those questions.
You know, one thing that I found too is that sometimes people will miss that opportunity to move into independent living, trying to stay home longer. I had a gentleman in particular, and he was all set. He was, you know, going to move into the independent living, and he was going to move the garage and make it be his wood workshop, and everything all planned. And then he decided to not move, and he tripped over a rug and broke his hip and had to go directly to assisted living. So had he been, and it just breaks my heart, had he been in a safer environment, he wouldn't have tripped over the rug. He laid there for days, by the way, because he was living by himself and his daughter was calling him and he wasn't answering. You know, so my hope is that people look now before they need, you know, to move or think they need to move, and then determine what type of living environment they want, and then writing that down and communicating that to their family and just saying, look, if something were to happen to me and I had to go into rehab, this is the place that I would want to go rehab. If I lost my memory and I needed to go into memory care, here's the place that I want to go. You take control of yourself and your life and make the decisions now. So,
because how many people promised their loved one that they would never put them in a home?
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing, is the elder, you know, has said that to the adult child, but yet the elder is not living a very full life. They're not having good nutrition. I had a client whose husband had died in a car accident, and she was putting a chair under her front door every single night. And that just broke my heart. I mean, there's no reason to live in that kind of fear. She sold her house and she moved into a 55 plus apartment because she was still, you know, she was about 67. She was pretty young. And her life just took off, you know, and now she has all these activities and all of these friends. And trust me, she's not putting a chair in her front door. You know, so I think it's good to do planning. I think, Debi, that's why your service is so helpful. There's no charge for
There's
you
no
to help
charge.
people. Yeah. So before you get into a situation that you're having to make a quick decision, take the time now and go investigate. And if you're an adult child and you happen to be on the call, same thing for you too. If your parent lives in another location, you're going to go visit them in June, take the advantage of a product or a service like Debi's company offers, and go and visit senior living communities now. Be proactive instead of reactive, because reactive never works out well. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Yes.
I love what you said about having a plan, because as an adult child and trying to find a place for my father, it was difficult because we didn't have a plan. I didn't know what he wanted, and had he had a plan, it would have just been so much better and so less stress on the adult child. So I love what you said about putting a plan together now and not waiting till that emergency.
Yeah, my mother went into rehab, and so we were looking for different rehabs, and I was working with my brothers on it. I'm the middle child, older brother, younger brother. We all three had different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like my younger brother thought that, the environment and that it would be religious and, would be important. I was more medical, like I was more worried about the medical that she would get. And my older brother cared how close he was to his work. So we all three had different opinions, and we finally decided on my younger brother's choice, but it wasn't easy. It would have been a lot easier if my mom would have said, if something were to happen to me, this is a place that I would want to go. In the end, it was the right place, but there was a lot of angst. So you help out your family, especially if you've got other siblings too, by taking the reins yourself and then just writing it down and communicating it with your family. One thing that we don't have represented on this phone call today is what we all call CCRC, or these are communities that have a multiple different levels of care at the community. There's normally a buy-in for these communities, although we have other people who say that they're CCRCs. Typically, there's a buy-in for it. So we've got a couple of those in the Austin area. We have Westminster, we have what's in Steiner Ranch? I'm having
Longhorn.
Thank you. Longhorn Village, Westminster, and we have Corinthia, and then Buckner's kind of a CCRC. Yeah. So the benefit of the CCRC is that they've got all different levels of care. So they have independent, assisted, memory care, then they've got the rehab, the short-term and the long-term. You normally have a buy-in for those situations. The buy-in can vary just depending on where you move in. Sometimes they've got little casitas, sometimes they're apartments, and so that price will vary. And we don't have anybody on this call that has that, except for Landria. You're kind of a continuum of care in that you've got independent, assisted, and memory care. But you don't have a buy-in. So everybody on this call, they have a fee that you pay per month. Do you want to talk a little bit? I'll have each person just kind of talk about finances as much as you want to, how it works. Is it a 1 month, 12 month? How can you get out of the lease? Are there other charges and things like that? So Landria, we'll start with you.
So we are month to month. The only requirement is that you have written 30-day notice to leave. There is a one-time community fee that you pay up front, similar to like an HOA, to one-time buy-in to Belmont Village. And the amount just varies based on the apartment style it's chose. So it can range anywhere from about $4,000, up to like $10,000. Just depends on the apartment style.
You're month to month. If you were going to go into the hospital, you broke your hip or something like that, and then it looked like you were going to go into rehab for a couple months, how would you handle that? How would your community handle that?
So it's just like your apartment. You still pay rent even during that time. What we do though is, we will take off any care. We will refund the care because they weren't utilizing it here, so they're just paying their apartment rent. So say they had medication management, we would take off that medication management for any of the time from the day they left to the hospital and then the day they return. Okay, great. And where, tell us about your occupancy right now. Typically we talk about how occupied you are. How many apartments do you have? Or
whatever you'd like to share.
All this? No,
you don't have to share. You can.
So the independent living is still full. With our independent living, we have 47 apartments. All of those apartments are occupied. The biggest question that comes up to us in terms of the occupancy is, when will another one come available in the independent living? And it's very hard because, as I said earlier, with us being unique and having it licensed as assisted living, those residents can truly stay there all the way through hospice care. So they don't have to move. So that's usually the biggest question in terms of occupancy when somebody's inquiring in the community. Overall, the community is about 60%. So we truly have availability in the assisted living and memory care. Independent living residents, they have a wait now for it.
Okay, great, thank you. Hey, Lori, how about there? Are you month to month, or how do you guys work?
We're month to month, like Landria, and if someone wanted to put in a notice or move out for any other reason, then we do require a 30-day notice. Our price includes all levels of care and socialization, and the medical model that we provide here as well. So they pay a monthly rent, and then the only additional fee would be an incontinence fee on top of that, and then the $4,500 community fee. And then also the other extra fee would be if you wanted to bring a pet, there's a $500 one-time deposit, and then a monthly fee depending on the weight of the animal.
And then do you guys take care of the animal, walk them?
We do take care of the animal. It provides food, provides the care of the animal, does not provide the vet bill, but we are able to take the animals.
But like kitty litter and stuff like that, you take care of that.
We cover all of that.
Yeah, that's great.
And we don't have different levels of care. You pay for either a shared apartment or you pay for a private apartment.
And you have openings right now?
We do. We are at 75% capacity, and we do have openings. I don't have any smaller private rooms available, and I believe I have one large private room available. Most of our apartments now are shared.
Oh, okay. Most are shared. Interesting. Landria, what's your pet fee?
We have a one-time, kind of like what Lori had said, a one-time fee. I want to say it's $300. We don't have a monthly fee for the pets, but if they want needed support, like walking the dog or changing kitty litter, we partner with an outside provider to do those services.
Great.
Of course, if like a hospitalization comes up, we're definitely going to take care of your pet.
Yeah.
It's recurring. We want to make sure their needs are met.
Yeah. Christi, how about you guys? Are you month to month?
We are month to month as well. And same as Lori and Landria, 30-day notice. One thing that I really like after working in an acute care rehab setting, sometimes they're not quite ready to move in. They want to kind of test the waters, or they're not quite ready to go home. And so we have what we call a respite stay, so that they can stay in our model apartment. And I believe that rate is $250 a day. It's obviously negotiable, but I really like that aspect, and I'm sure that Landria and Lori offer that as well, because it is such a needed service. Our studios range from $42.50. I had to get my little cheat sheet, and they go all the way. Our apartments go all the way up to about $6,000 for a 2-bedroom. I know you want numbers, I would. So our community fee ranges from $2,000 to $4,000. And I know during COVID, we really worked with our families to try to assist them the best way that we can, so that they don't have to move out, because a lot of our family members have unfortunately lost their jobs. So we've worked with them so that they can stay here and they don't have to move out. Unfortunately, our occupancy is around 60% because we haven't been able to move anybody in because of COVID. But hopefully once we get everybody moved in, we'll bump back up to about 82%.
Great. And you have a pet fee?
We do. It's about, I think it's $300 one-time fee.
Okay. Okay. So I think that answers that question. Oh, I wanted to ask about apartments. So I think it's interesting between an independent assisted, and memory, what's actually in the apartment. So Landria, tell us what you have. Mostly it has to do with the kitchen. It seems to me that the difference is. So what's a kitchen like in independent living? Then we'll ask the others what it's like for assisted living.
We like to call them kitchenette because you have a counter, you have a stovetop, a 2-burner stovetop, a full fridge, and a microwave. Those are in the independent and assisted living apartment. Sorry, independent. When you get to assisted living, the only difference in that kitchenette is you don't have a stovetop because all 3 meals are provided each day. So there's really no need for them to be cooking. And then when you move to our neighborhood, which is our secure memory care, we don't have kitchenettes in there because it's really not needed. And we utilize that space more for closet space, storage, and our square footage in their apartment.
Okay. How about you, Lori? Are your memory care rooms, you don't have kitchens in there?
We don't, since we're all memory care. Now what we can do is we can allow the family to bring in a coffee maker or a refrigerator, but the only thing is we have to do an assessment to make sure that our resident knows how to properly use that.
Okay. Then how about you, Christi? What do your assisted living apartments look like?
Pretty much the same thing. Full size refrigerator with a water dispenser, ice maker, disposal, sink, microwave. We do not have stoves, although it's been like a 2-top burner, although that's something that we might look at. We have a couple residents that are requesting that so that they don't have to plug it in. Our memory care side, we do not have kitchens in the apartment. However, we have 2 full-size kitchens that we utilize whenever the residents, we do have like cooking demonstrations, or if they want to cook their own pizza or something like that, we do have 2 full kitchens where we in the common area where they can utilize that service. And same thing, if they're able to have a refrigerator or coffee maker, we're able to accommodate that as well.
How about washer dryer? Where are your washer dryers?
Our washer dryers are in the community, so they're community based. We do all of the laundry. If they want to do their own linens and clothing, then they're able to use the community washer and dryers. They're normally 1 for every 10 apartments, I believe.
Okay. Landria, do you have washer and dryers in your independent living?
Yes, the independent living apartments have washer dryers in the apartment. And then we also have a community laundry room. There's 2 on every floor. There's 8 total in the building.
How about a family dining room? Do you have a family dining room where people can have family come and eat with them?
Like the private dining room?
Uh-huh.
We, again, looking at the demographic we were serving, most of the residents who were building out the building said they did not want a private dining room.
Okay.
For having just a normal seating area. So most of our families, when they visit for dinner and meals, they just eat in the main dining room. They don't have to make a reservation, they just come by.
Okay. How about you, Christi? Do you guys have a family dining room?
We do have a family dining room in case they want to have birthday parties or just private functions, but I'll have to agree with Landria. A lot of times they want to sit out in the main area and kind of show off their family. So when we do have people in there, we keep the doors open.
And Lori, I know yours is all open. When you come in, it's just bam. You got food. You've got your whole setup of a bar area, not bar like.
Smells like cookies.
Your bistro.
Yes.
It's all very open. So I know. What you do have a little dining room, don't you?
We do have a family dining room.
Yeah.
For private parties with families, and we have 3 dining areas. The one that you walk into primarily when you walk into the building is our main dining area, and then we have 3 bistros spread out throughout the community. Hydration stations, snacks, ice cream for the residents.
And you're kind of set up in a courtyard where you're kind of in a square and everybody looks out to the center. Is that right?
That is correct. Our community is very open. It's in a circular shape. And so when you walk into the building, into the main dining area, you can see out into the main courtyard. We have 5 entrances to the courtyard, and those doors remain unlocked. So our residents have that freedom to go in and outside when they want. It's really unique, a very unique environment. We do keep the doors secured when it's 45 degrees and colder or 94 degrees and warmer, and of course when it's raining for the safety of our residents. But other than that, they have that freedom. And when we see that, that tends to cut down on, you know, sundowning behaviors, agitation, because they're not banging at a door trying to get out. They actually do have that freedom, but it's in a very secured environment.
Well, guys, I think I've gone through many of my questions. I have, actually, I was wondering if Debi, I don't know if you have this since you've just come on so graciously at the last minute, but can you tell us some figures, like how many independent living communities are there in the Austin area? How many assisted living? How many memory care? You know, just how big is that market? And
so I don't have numbers for you, but I can tell you that there are a lot of choices and options, which is good, but they're not all the same. And I would encourage people, whether they use a service like ours or whether they really get a lot of references, to really dig deeper, because, you know, just because there's something on every corner, they're not all created equal. And so I think that there are a lot of options, which is a good thing, but the truth is that they're not all good. They're not all, you know, so you really do want to do your homework and find out about them and about their residents. We're finding right now that a lot of people are trying to choose a place because they've got a loved one coming out of rehab, and they're not going to be able to wait until you guys are doing more than virtual tours. And one of the things that is holding them back is they can't get the feel for the building and the staff. So I would encourage you all, if you're doing a FaceTime or I would encourage you to take them into your ED's office and take them into your nurse and let them actually have FaceTime with those people too, and some of your caregivers, because it's what's holding some of them back from making their choice. Even with us saying, well, it's a great choice you're making, or those two places that you're looking at are really awesome, they're still scared. And I mean, we all get that, right? Like it's a huge decision, and to not be able to go in the building and get the feel and see it for yourself is tough. So I would encourage all of you guys to do that. Anybody who's listening to this, I would encourage you to dig deep and to ask a lot of questions and try to find somebody to guide you. Whether that's a locator or not isn't the point. The point is that you have someone, it could be your hospice nurse, it could be your home health person, but someone to really help you dig deeper. But then also for you guys, offer as much of the FaceTime as you can, so that they can get a glimpse of your team and how you relate and how warm you are, because that's something that's really hard to get from a virtual tour.
That is so true.
Right? I mean, it's a feeling. I tell people all the time, you know, I can send you to great places, but you've got to feel it. And it's hard to get that feeling, especially just from one person. Like they might get that feeling from you or me, but like they want to feel it. And so I would encourage that. Lori, I don't know where you're from, what building you're from.
Auberge.
Auberge at BK, formerly Silverado Memory Care.
Okay, thanks.
Debi, maybe you could just tell us in general what prices are, because I know that you have relationships with all the different senior living. So in general, what is a 55 plus apartment price right now?
So there are some that are, you know, have some income controls and some fees, so that they're geared for people. So they might be around the $1,000 mark for like even a 2-bedroom apartment, and they'll still offer some things and be nice. And but you can't earn more than a certain amount, and you have to make, you know, a certain amount so they know you can pay. So there's those, and then but then the next level up might be, you know, anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000 for a 1 or 2-bedroom apartment, but they're not offering meals, and they're not, you know, they're really truly just an apartment complex for seniors. But they might have a beautiful saltwater pool and, you know, billiard room and an art studio. So it's not that they're not, it's just that it's going to be priced higher than a regular apartment. But it's really senior friendly, and it's really got a lot of high-end amenities. And then your independent livings can be anywhere from, I'm going to say 1,800 to I'll go as far as $4,000 a month, depending on the size of apartment, because some people are going to go into an independent living and still want a 3-bedroom apartment, let's say, or a 2-bedroom with a den. And so it can range. That's going to include your utilities, your meals, your activities, unless you go out somewhere to spend the money, transportation, that kind of thing. Then when you get to assisted living, it becomes a little harder to nail down, because you're going to have a core price that could be $2,500 or, you know, a month, up to $4,000 a month as a core price, but then your levels of care. Some do it a la carte, some do it by a level system, a point system. So that's where you get into, you really have to have that assessment done. Ask a lot of questions. Just know, also all assisted livings don't offer exactly the same care. Some might do only a 1-person transfer from bed to wheelchair to car, whereas another one might do 2-person. A few even have a Hoyer lift. So you have to ask those questions as well, which we ask them obviously on our end so that we're linking to the right place. And I think the communities ask those questions, but I want the people listening to know that they need to ask those questions. Level of care can put you from a $3,000 level to an $8,000 level somewhere. And if that's not your price point, you need to know that, you know, up front. And then memory care usually is more of a flat fee. And I think that's what Lori was saying. And I think probably Christi and Landria were also saying that in terms of their memory care can be a little bit different. It can be a flat fee where the person pays maybe $5,000 a month or $6,000 a month. I find that they range mainly between $4,000 and $7,000 in terms of the flat fee, depending on, do you want shared, do you want private, how high end are they? Because, you know, I mean, that matters, you know, and that's not, and you have to really go by care and what your needs are and where you're comfortable, you know. So, and if you have, I've always said this to people, if you have the money to spend, then don't feel like you shouldn't spend it, because if that's what your loved one needs, then give them what they need. But we all know that spending more money doesn't always result in better care. So you still want to visit and get to know the team and get to know their policies and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think some just self-discovery too, of asking yourself some questions. I know I was working with a client and she said, my mom likes to volunteer, so she'd like to live someplace that they do volunteering. Well, I knew about a senior living community that took a bus to a hospital and they would go volunteer. So that's the place that she moved into. That was the one. There can be just one thing, you know, for some people it's an indoor pool. You know, they might have Parkinson's, and having that ability to swim, but they want it indoor because they want that heat, you know, they don't want the outdoor, you know, weather. That can be the determining factor. So just one thing can just switch it for you. If you don't have those particular needs though, then the feeling that you get when you go in a community is very important. I know I had another client and the daughter was going to Europe, and so they were looking for respite for her dad. And so we found respite for him for a month, and he didn't want to move once he was there. He loved it. And she was so worried about this trip and so worried about him. And he was like, oh, I'll try it. He loved it. So it worked out great for everybody. So the respite, if you can find a respite, where you have even somebody on the fence, you know, about it, can be an amazing opportunity.
I tell people all the time that what we view as this negative, like having to go into a place, is generally really a positive. That once they relax and start to like the amenities, the attention, the care, the help, the fun, the socialization, most people are much, much happier after going than anyone thinks is going to happen. That's generally what I find when I talk to people after they've moved, is like, oh, this is great, and I had no idea.
Well, I want all my meals made for me and my room cleaned. I don't know about y'all.
I want to be chauffeured around.
Right?
Drop me off at the doctor's office door instead of having to park and do all that kind of stuff. But you know, you're gonna have, when you have a couple, you oftentimes will have people who are not agreeable. And so I work with lots of couples where it's typically the male, I'm just gonna say it, he's like, well, why should we move? Everything's fine here. And the wife's running around doing all the meals and doing all the cooking and cleaning and stuff. She's like, nope, we're going somewhere. But one thing I have seen is that people will have a more successful move if they have moved properly. So what I mean by that, and I'm a downsizing coach, is that we don't just go to our elder's house and put everything in garbage bags and throw their stuff away. We go through the proper process of allocating our items that we have in our home. So donating it to people, but just going in and saying, I've got a weekend to get my parents moved and putting everything in garbage bags, it's never a successful move. So if you're an adult child and you're on this call, don't do it that way. It never works out. They never recover. I mean, I've just seen mentally where they never recover because all their stuff was taken from them. So really the stuff is critical. It's important. There's a proper process to go through. And if that's something that you need help with, our team does that all the time. So, and we've worked with lots of hoarders. You know, we've worked with hoarders who family has not, they've never even been in their home in years. And we go to work with them and we help them move through all the stuff, get the stuff. Mostly they want the stuff donated. They don't want stuff thrown away. And if we do throw something away, we might just anyway, make up a little story about where it went to, like the dog going to the farm, but in a respectful manner, but you get what I'm saying. But don't mess around with people's stuff. It's a whole process that you have to go through mentally. So I would highly recommend you just put the brakes on. You pump the brakes. You guys have any stories like that to share?
Well, I think stuff to us is memories to them. I mean, most of our residents lived through the Depression. So it's very, very hard for them to let go of their stuff or their memories.
And there is a way to do it in a kind fashion. And when you do it in that fashion, they always transition and they live a better life because of it. But yeah, we put teacup pictures in a picture book, you know, instead of taking 25 teacups with you. There's a lot of really thoughtful things that you can do. What else, guys? We've got a little bit more time. Let me see if I've got any questions here. And you guys think about if maybe I forgot to ask you something. Oh, thank you for putting in information, Landria, about your community. Ladies, if you'll all put in your information about your community, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's an area, if you go to the chat, you'll see these little dots. And if you click on the dots, you can save the chat, and that will give you all of the information that people have put into the chat. And right now we do have Debi. Somebody asked for Debi's contact information. She put it in there. We have a question. If I was in independent living, could I navigate the apartment and the facility in a wheelchair? Debi, you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, I think that any apartment that's designed for 55 plus are generally designed to where they have at least a group of apartments that are set up to be wheelchair accessible. Even if not every apartment is, they have some that are. A lot of places have, all of them are, but if they don't, then some are. And then all their common areas are. So you can absolutely get around a building, because if you've got self-care and it's just a wheelchair, then yes, you can absolutely navigate a building, your apartment, without any help and interference at all, you know. And it's just nice because then you do have some amenities right there that you don't have to go out and get transportation to. Most of them too, if they offer transportation, have a bus or van that takes a wheelchair, so you don't even have to necessarily get in and out of it to go to appointments. So the answer to absolutely, you know, most places are very cognizant of that because there's a lot of very independent people that are in wheelchairs.
Anybody else want to comment on the wheelchair question that we had? Do we have any other questions? If you have any questions, you can go in through the chat. and ask the question there, and then I'll ask the question to the panelists. But yeah, I think wheelchairs, gosh, I've seen people in wheelchairs in all the different communities. The scooters now, are you guys still letting scooters come in the communities? I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you got
We
some
do
crazy
not.
drivers, don't you? You almost need a license.
You have to pass.
We do not allow scooters. No scooters.
Lori.
Landria, what'd you say?
I was joking, but kind of serious. They have to take a like if they have therapy, make sure they're safely using it so that they're not running residents' toes over. Or,
Do they have to wear a helmet?
No.
Okay.
Texas, we don't wear helmets.
Hey, Landria, do you have garages at your community, or is it covered parking? You have covered parking or no?
We do. So we have, I think it's about 5 covered parking spots.
Okay.
They can park wherever they want if it's not covered.
Okay. Do you have storage units there too? No storage. Okay. And Christi, I don't think you have garages.
We don't. We do have covered parking, but we don't have garages.
Okay. Covered parking. And Laura, you don't have covered parking.
I'm so sorry. I just lost you guys. No,
Oh,
we
we can
not.
see.
No, we do not.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to the chat to see if we have any other questions. Was there anything I forgot to ask, guys?
I was just going to recommend a good question to ask where you just get a variety of answers and you learn so much. It's a question that I normally ask, and it's, what will you miss the most? I mean, it's amazing the answers that you get and how much you learn from somebody when you just ask that simple, open-ended question.
I bet then you're able to say, well, although we don't have a garden here, we have whatever. Is that what you tend to do? Yeah.
And for my dad, that was a question that I asked him, and I learned so much about what to even look for, where to even start.
Mm-hmm. That is a great question.
So this is Lori. So we have what's called a client interest profile sheet. And that's real important too. Just like Christi was saying, it's always very important to write down as much information about your loved one so we can meet their needs as far as engagements, physically, mentally, anything that they've done in their life that we can recognize here in our communities. And I know we all feel the same about that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask, Christi, I don't think we asked you, are you accepting residents right now, or what's happening with COVID? What's happening if somebody wants to move in?
Oh goodness. So we will probably be honestly the last ones to open up. We're not looking at opening anytime soon. I would say probably middle of June. I know I was talking to Landria earlier that we might have, a resident or two that needs to move in right now from rehab into assisted living. Are you still opening on the 15th? No. Okay, well then maybe we won't be the only ones opening. Lori, are you still accepting?
We are. We still accept residents. We have to isolate for 7 days, and a one-on-one caregiver needs to be provided by the family.
Yeah, I know that we're looking into, when we were talking to the CDC, we're looking into getting the testing done and what's going to be the new normal, the new protocol for moving residents in, not just for this time of the year, but also if it happens to come back during the winter time, that we're fully prepared.
I think everybody wants to be prepared for next one time.
Yes.
If it's at all possible. I don't know what
Yes.
prepared looks like, but I guess, yeah. Oh my goodness.
Day by day.
It is day by day, and it changes day by day too. So what are some of the things that you're offering now for your residents that can't go out, or can they go out?
So our residents, obviously if they need to go to the doctor appointment or something like that, then I mean, that's a have to, that's a must. When they come back, they need to stay quarantined in their room for 7 days. If they want to go stay with their family, we just ask that they stay with their family until we open the doors back up. But I know as far as, I think the biggest issue right now is they can't get their hair done and they can't get their nails done. So
I feel their pain.
Oh my goodness. So I think the biggest thing that we're doing right now is my mom's a hairstylist, so I've been going around on my days off and staying late to do their hair, especially for Mother's Day, give them a quick shave, a quick cut, file their nails, do their nails, and that's just really made a difference even with the men. And then being creative as far as bringing in, different musical groups and having them set up outside and they can open their windows, because unfortunately we have to have a barrier between the outside community and our seniors. And I think every community is kind of functioning the same way, but we're just really trying to think out of the box to meet their needs. Dining is a huge one, so we try to write little notes on top of the box and encouraging sayings, just little things like that. Cook their recipes that they want us to cook.
Love it. Lori, same thing. I'm sure it's very similar for you guys. Andrea and Lori.
Same thing. And we have to actually distance our residents 3 to 6 feet apart, although it's really difficult sometimes in memory care. We've had a couple outside vendors come in and do activities through the window. But for the most part, we've been doing really well within our community with activities. I think sometimes the residents get agitated, but we're able to redirect and make sure we have ongoing activities every single day.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Brian wants to say something. Brian, I'm going to let you go ahead and talk. I unmuted you, so I tried to unmute you.
Hey, Brian.
We're trying here. Technology.
Mute myself. There, I unmuted myself. How's that?
Woohoo! All right, Brian, what do you got?
Well, the new version of recording life stories that we do means that we don't have to visit the facility to record the video of the resident. So we can do it right into their room over their iPhone. Works really well because the software is already loaded in there. We call in.
What are the steps? What are the steps that you would take? So you'd have to have somebody there at the community with an iPhone.
Well,
right?
The resident has to have an iPhone in their room. They can stay in lockdown.
Okay.
They simply answer a FaceTime call. It's being recorded at my end. And all we do is we send them a list of questions to choose from in advance. And they can add to it any questions that they would like to be asked about their life. And then we talk for 15 minutes to a half an hour or in a FaceTime call, or a Zoom call or a Skype call. And it's all recorded at my end. And we put it up on YouTube so the family can see it and have it for future generations.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great activity for people to be able to do right now. It's just a way for people to communicate with other people, record themselves, and then the family can see it. That's a great idea, Brian. How can they find out more information? I think you put your email address in the chat, so we can go there.
Actually, they can go and see some of the people who have done life story recordings, and they can see a video that I did explaining how it works at brianhillonline.com, and it's free. That's another important point to make. So brianhillonline.com.
And Brian, you'll do this with anybody, even people who aren't living in a senior living community. So anybody on the call right now that wants to do that would be able to do that with you too. Is that right? That's right.
All you have to do is have a smartphone, let's put it that way, and no software to download if you use FaceTime, or you can, if you use Zoom or Skype regularly to talk to your family, we can record your life stories. I interview you remotely.
Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. He's done them for our residents at our community.
Awesome. Thanks for the shout out. All right. Well, guys, I think I don't have any other questions. Let me just look real quick. Okay. I am not seeing any other questions. Is there anything else you would like to add before we sign off for today?
Cyndi, there is another question. It's in the Q&A area.
Okay.
It says, how has COVID affected the living facilities? Are you locked in your room?
Oh, are you locked in your room? Yes or no, guys?
No.
No, you're not locked in your room.
You're not locked in your room.
Oh, none of y'all are. Okay. I've heard of other senior livings where the seniors are actually locked in their room.
Now, I think that isn't that where if there is a confirmed case, then they're isolating the residents? We have not had any confirmed cases here at the Auberge. What we're doing is just keeping our residents 3 to 6 feet apart, social distancing.
And then are people wearing masks then?
All of the associates are wearing masks. All of the employees are wearing masks. It's hard to actually have a memory care resident wear a mask. So we're not requiring that. Every morning when we come into work, our temperatures are also taken in the morning, and anything above 99, they need to go home immediately.
So are you finding that everybody's congregating out in the open areas? You have more activities? No, you don't have more activities, less activities?
I think a little bit less. We're just trying to be more creative on how to engage these residents, because we can't have outside vendors come in right now. But it's been a lot of engaging in maybe flower arranging and painting and the types of activities that we can do to space out our residents.
Okay. Oh,
I think one thing that we've learned is our staff. We've got some really talented staff. Some of them dance professionally and play the violin and sing, and so they've really come out of the woodwork and stepped it up. And we do things in hallways, and so a lot of our staff members will perform, and it has been such a joy to get to know our staff as well. So that's one thing we're doing, and I really enjoyed that. I unfortunately don't have those kinds of talents.
Oh, I don't know. If you're cutting people's hair and doing their nails, you are very loved. I'm in so much pain. I'm just like, so families can't come visit right now. Is that right?
Yeah. No, families can't visit, but we actually do daily FaceTime with our families and residents, and then they can come visit at the window, and then we take a phone to the resident and they can talk through the window.
Oh my gosh, that has to it's heartbreaking. I've seen so many of those pictures and I just want to cry.
I know.
It's just,
We did this past weekend for Mother's Day, because it was very hard for all the residents. We did a Mother's Day parade and let them cars to say hello to their families and go around.
Oh my gosh. How much longer? Does anybody know?
I know.
No.
Well, you guys are at the forefront of our thoughts. You're working with our most treasured people in America. And I know that you're trying to make their lives better right now. And we appreciate everything that you're doing. And for everybody who is on the webinar today, I hope that you'll reach out to any of these professionals and ask them additional questions. You guys would welcome phone calls, right?
Sure.
You're
Absolutely.
welcome visitors when it's time. And again, you guys go visit when you can, when you don't have a tragedy, and just plan out your future for yourself. And we appreciate everybody's time today. And Debi, thank you for getting on. Your services that you offer are incredible, and they are free. And I don't know why somebody wouldn't just call y'all when you have needs such as that. But thank you, everybody. It was great seeing you. We'll see you next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about holistic health approaches and CBD. Who wants to learn about CBD?
Me.
So I hope y'all will be on next week. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.